What's going on, guys? Pad Player here, and this video is going to be a little bit different. Typically you see me in front of this wall talking about a bunch of keyboard stuff, but today we are actually traveling over to Sims. It's a local music store where I will be doing my very first keyboard review. I am really looking forward to this one, so let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so like I said, I just pulled up to Sims, where we will be reviewing two keyboards, actually. I did not realize we were going to be reviewing two keyboards, but you know what? I like to roll with the punches. So this time you're going to get two for the price of one, so I'm looking forward to that. So let's go ahead and get in there and let's get started. You might notice that the guy that I'm interviewing changes his shirt in the middle of the interview, and that's not because he actually changed his shirt. That's because we actually did the recordings on 2 different days, and he didn't wear the same shirt on the second day. Oh, hey, Bill. How's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
All right, cool. So what sort of keyboards are we going to be looking at today?
We're going to look at the Juno DS 88 and the Yamaha Montage 8.
All right, fantastic. Let's go take a look at them. Okay, so why don't you go ahead and tell me something about the Juno DS? Like, let's get the damaging stuff out of the way first, right? So what's the price on this thing?
The price is going to be $999.99, so just over $1,000.
Which is, you know, it's not bad. That's a good price for a keyboard. You know, I mean, if you're looking for something in the intermediate level, which I assume that's what this is. Yeah. It's in the intermediate level. Okay, cool. So what sort of functionality would you say this has? Do you think this classifies as a stage keyboard or as a workstation, or do you think it classifies more for just the recording aspects? What do you think?
It's kind of an all-purpose keyboard in my opinion. It's not a workstation, though it does have some workstation capabilities. There is a phrase pad that you can record short sequences on with a rhythm pattern, and then record that and play a line over it. So it's good for composition. It's definitely great for the stage. It's portable. It's pretty lightweight despite having weighted keys. It can run on batteries as well as an AC wall adapter. So perfect for bedroom and studio producing.
So what would you say is the speciality of the Juno DS in comparison to the other keyboards?
I think just value for everything that you get in one board. You get so many pro features without having to pay the highest pro prices.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. So in light of all that, let's talk about the quality of the sounds. You know, we're talking about a $1,000 keyboard. I mean, you have keyboards in here ranging anywhere from $200 to $4,000 to $5,000. So how would you rate the piano sound in comparison to the other keyboards?
It's pretty comparable. There is a very large selection of piano sounds. Some have different effects on them which really warm them up. So they are comparable, for sure. Okay.
But do you feel like the synth pads have a higher value than the piano sounds on the Juno DS?
Yes, synth sounds, a lot of the brass sounds, string sounds are really awesome, and just some of the sound effects that you can get out of this thing are just phenomenal.
How would you compare like instrumental sounds? I know that might be similar to what synth sounds are, but like the closeness of an actual instrument like the trumpet, the saxophones and stuff like that, how would you compare that to the other keyboards we have here?
I think the brass sounds are all phenomenal. Woodwind samples could be better, but in a synthesizer, you know.
Right. I mean, I was playing around with the Juno DS quite a bit, and I noticed that it really felt more like it had a strength of like the 80s-ish funk kind of synth sounds to it. And if you're looking for that kind of sounds, I mean, the warm pads on there are phenomenal as well. So that's really one key aspect that a lot of people like to use for example, if you're at a church and you're looking for like a worship experience, the warm pads are phenomenal for giving that background ambiance. And I feel like the Juno DS really does excel in those warm pads.
Right, and it is reminiscent of the Junos from the 80s, and it still really tries to capture that feel of its predecessors, which it does.
Well, let's transition now. Let's talk about the Yamaha Montage, which is going to be a pretty significant jump because we're going from a $1,000 keyboard to a
$4,000.
keyboard. So obviously, when you compare the two, the quality of the Montage 8 just has to be excelling in every fashion from the Roland Juno DS.
Correct.
And I was playing around with it a lot. I'm a big fan of the Nord Stage 2. I play it in a lot of different churches, and I gotta tell you, some of the sounds you're getting out of that Montage 8 really compares to that Nord Stage quality sound. The piano pad on the Montage 8 is really close to a baby grand. I mean, it was just beautiful, and obviously you have the right speakers. I mean, people won't even tell the difference.
Right. Yamaha did use Bosendorfer pianos for the samples, so they are real acoustic samples that are just the best.
Just phenomenal.
I mean, I think every synthesizer since the beginning of synthesizers has tried to emulate a piano perfectly, and I feel like this got it right.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But obviously with the price tag, you want more than just a nice quality sound piano, because with the price tag you could get a baby grand.
Absolutely.
So what else does this thing do?
Well, it does feature two separate distinct sound engines, FM X, frequency modulation X, which is reminiscent from the DX7 and DX line from the 1980s, as well as AWM2, which is advanced wave memory, which was in the Motif line. So both these sound engines, the FM and then the sample and synthesis engine, can be combined to create sounds that have never existed before. FM has never had on-demand controls where you can tweak the sound. This thing has a filter that you can just make scream, which a frequency modulation synth has never had before. So you can just make crazy string sounds. You can take it from like a string section to outer space.
Now this thing is technically not a workstation.
Not at all.
Okay? But after looking at it and using it for a while, I mean, it's pretty close. I mean, it's really got a lot of the functionality of a workstation, even though it doesn't have the classification of one.
Right. And everything is motion sequence recordable, so you can hook it up to a computer and to a DAW, and it's the same thing, if not better.
Right. Right. Because obviously the programs that you can get on the computer can overweigh anything that you would actually put onto a board. I mean, I have this one. I have the Core Chrome workstation. I should probably get that right. And I love this thing. I think it's phenomenal. I love the touch interface on this. I feel like it's really nice for doing a lot of recording stuff at home. But on the stage, it's a little tedious to try to change stuff on the spot. You're getting the stage presence keyboard as well as the nice home record keyboard in the Montage 8. I really feel like it's that keyboard that has everything in one package. You want to be on stage, you want to record at home, you want to have a workstation. Anything that you need for this keyboard to do, this keyboard can practically do it.
Right, and let's not forget the beautiful LCD display. I mean, this thing is huge, it's colorful, you can find anything at random.
Well, that's enough talking and theory crafting. Let's see how these things run. So basically at this point, Bill showed me all the really cool things that are on both of these keyboards. And then he let me have a go at them. Wow, okay, so 2 keyboards in 1 review, and I gotta say, these 2 keyboards are pretty awesome, but let's look at it in more detail. And in my opinion, I like to do it in a more of a consumer report style. So as you're gonna see right over here, I am going to show you exactly what I think about these keyboards. First of all, I wanna talk about the price, okay? And I'm gonna compare it to 2 other keyboards that I feel like are in the ballpark of the Roland Juno DS, okay? And that is the Core Chrome workstation, which is one of the keyboards that I have, and another one called the Casio MZX 500. And it's more of a recorder synthesizer, but you're gonna be able to see what I mean by that as we go through the review. First of all, let's talk about the display. I feel like the Juno DS is a little lackluster in this category. I feel like the Korg in this category has a little bit of a better display as well as the Casio. The Roland, in my opinion, was a good display, but I just kind of felt like that the screen was just a little too small for it to be classified as a workstation. If you're going to be going through all of the internals of the pads and you're going through all the layers and stuff, I want to be looking at a little bit of a bigger screen, or I'm going to be working with a DAW, which is a digital audio workstation that you have on your computer. So let's look at the second category, and that's user interface. In this category, I really feel like the Juno DS just excelled in all areas. I really feel like the Core Chrome workstation and the Casio are just more difficult to try to get used to. I feel like somebody who's never seen any of these keyboards before would pick up the Juno DS much faster than the other two keyboards. And so I feel like the Roland just wins in this category by flying colors. The next category I want to talk about is stage presence. And once again, I feel like the Juno DS excels in this area. Because of the analog inputs that you actually have on the left side of the keyboard, you have much more control over the sounds that you actually have on stage. And they're easy to get to as opposed to the Core Chrome workstation and the Casio. But the Casio is really more of a recording keyboard, so I don't know whether or not it would fare well in this category to begin with, as it's not classified as one of these. But because we're looking at the Roland as being a do-it-all keyboard, I wanted to put the Casio in this description or in this review so you can get a perspective of a real recording synthesizer. The next category that I want to talk about is recording, okay? And I feel like this is where the Roland Juno DS kind of falls a little bit. The Roland Juno DS is not exactly designed to do a lot of recording, and it's a neutral position. Remember, this is a comparison between the other two keyboards, and I feel like the Casio just has to excel in this area as it's a specialty. The Core Chrome workstation is pretty good at this, but once again, I feel like the Casio just kind of hits this one off with flying colors. But as far as overall performance, I feel like the Roland Juno DS is a great buy, and that's the big aspect. If you look at the price difference between the Core Chrome and the Roland Juno DS, there's about a $500 to $600 price difference. And if you look at the overall performance, in my opinion, they're about the same. And that is huge. If you guys are looking to save some money, look no further than the Roland Juno DS, because I've looked up forums and I've looked up reviews, and you know what I found out? Not a lot of issues, and that's huge. Now let's move on to that big boy that we saw, the Yamaha Montage 8. Man, what a beautiful keyboard. I can't stop thinking about how many different things that keyboard could do. But we have to do a comparison on this one, and I feel like the two best keyboards to compare this thing to is the Nord Stage 2, which I know very well, and a legendary keyboard in the professional society, the Korg Kronos. First of all, let's talk about the display. I feel like the display in the Montage 8 was excellent, as opposed to the Nord Stage 2. The Nord Stage 2, you can get a little confused with all those analog knobs on there, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty darn good. So that's why it's not necessarily a neutral category. I felt like it was a little bit in between. But the Korg Kronos, I feel, is just a little bit better in this category. And although I categorize both of them as better or exceptionally good, I feel like the Korg Kronos just kind of excels the Montage 8 in this category. Although the flashiness of all the buttons on the Montage 8 is nice, some people are just going to prefer that classy look that the Kronos gives, especially with that wood molding on the side. Just makes it look exceptionally nice. Now let's talk about the user interface. And once again, I feel like the Korg Kronos excels in this area. It's very sleek, it's very clean, and it's very easy to use. And so, especially for the intermediate to advanced player, you really can't go wrong with the Korg Kronos. Not saying that the Montage 8 isn't very difficult to use or it's that very complicated to use, but I just feel like the Korg Kronos is just a little bit better in this area. And once again, if you're not used to Nord stages, you're going to be very confused when you see it at first, and then you have to get used to it. So that's why it's a neutral position. Next, let's talk about stage presence. And this is where I feel like the Montage 8 excels extremely over the Korg Kronos because of one thing: that super knob. And that's that knob that can control all the other pads on the selection that you have at the moment. It's not a volume knob. That's something that you just have to understand about the Montage 8. It's a unique knob that can transition from one set of pads into a new set of pads, which opens up a whole new window of opportunity for stage presence. A lot of bands because they don't have enough keyboardists, will use tracks in order to fill in the gaps that they don't have, especially when they're on stage. And that could be limiting, because if your audience is really into the song that you're playing currently, you don't have the opportunity to go into the chorus multiple times when you actually have tracks. You have to follow the tracks in accordingly. And with the Montage 8, you now are able to open up the opportunity to be able to go into a chorus multiple times. And in a professional environment, most professional bands are going to have enough keyboardists, but for the intermediate environment, and I'm talking about worship teams, this can be very limiting. And so if you want to have that spirit-led environment, the Montage 8 might be the way for you to go. And obviously the Nord Stage 2 is designed to be on stage. I mean, with the analog knobs on there, you can easily transition between pads. And I just feel like it excels in this area. And that's the one area that I feel like the Core Kronos is not as good at as the other two keyboards. Now let's talk about recording. Once again, I feel like the Core Kronos excels in this area with the cleanliness of the board, all the analog features being on the left and all of your selection being on the right, and the user interface in the middle is just beautiful. And you really can't go wrong with a setup like that. The Montage 8 has something very similar to it, but I just feel like it looks a little too overwhelming, and that's the reason why I feel like, as far as between these keyboards, the Core Kronos takes it in this category. Overall, I feel like the Montage 8 and the Core Kronos are exceptional, but the reason why I feel like the Montage 8 can be put in the same category as the Core Kronos is because of that super knob. It's something that is very special about the Yamaha board that the Core Kronos just doesn't have. And I'm wondering if that's what they intended. I wonder if they were not trying to necessarily compete with the things that the Core Kronos actually has excelled in many different ways. And they wanted to go a different route by giving that super knob so that they have something different to offer professional bands when they're on stage. And if you can limit the amount of keyboardists that you have on stage by relying on somebody that has a lot more experience, then everything's gonna go a lot better for you, isn't it? So, man, 2 keyboards, that was a lot of information. I hope that I didn't overwhelm you guys, and I'm gonna be doing more keyboard reviews in the future, and I hope this time it's only gonna be 1 keyboard at a time. If you like what you saw, please subscribe to the channel down below. I'm also gonna put a link to the description at Sim's website, where you can also see this video and a lot of the other things that Sims is offering at their store. And once again, my name's Steve, and you can call me the Pad Player. Thanks a lot, guys, and I hope to catch you next time.